Since February of 2012, we have talked quite a bit about the feasibility of building an event center, now referred to as a downtown community facility. And City Council has been doing this due diligence, and we continue to do that. About 6 weeks ago, the City Council approved a limited notice to proceed to begin the design portion for the facility. To this point, we had not designed a facility. We had only hired a company called SFA to prepare a program. And so tonight, what we wanted to do is to inform the council, update the council, but also update the public about the proposed downtown community facility. So with that, I want to just explain a few things to you. SFA was hired by the city in November of 2014, and what they did is they prepared the pro forma for such a facility. And what that pro forma identified was that the project could cash flow by year 4. SFA and Steve Gorse have been involved in this design process, and we continue to consult with Steve Gorse. I didn't ask him to be here this evening, but he has been working with the design team as we move through this process. And it is important to say that all the elements of the program which relate to financial viability of the downtown community facility are included in the design as outlined by the folks you're going to hear from this evening. We'll say the facility is very flexible, and as you see the elements of the building today, I hope you will agree with me on that. The building is really like a gym on steroids, but it can host a variety of events beyond the youth and amateur sports. Today you will get to meet the design build team and hear what they've learned to date and see some of the elements they are including in our facility. I will tell you that Barnhill Construction, along with Hope Brothers Construction, were selected as the primary contractor, and they lead the design team. What you will not see is a rendering of the facility. We were very careful not to put a building out here before you and get you fixated on what that building is going to look like. A tremendous amount of research is being done to ensure the facility is appropriately designed for the downtown environment. And please remember, the design build team has been working on our project, and Gail corrected me, they have been working on it for 5 weeks, but I believe this is the beginning of the 6th week. And they have a deadline of October 9, 2015 to submit to us a guaranteed maximum price. Today, I'm pleased to inform you the project can be delivered within the established budget. And I'll just add one other thing before turn it over to Gail. It is important for us to do all of this work as we move forward with the project, because without a design and without really being able to demonstrate to potential lenders and potential CDEs that provide new market tax credits, if we don't have a design with a guaranteed maximum price, they really don't believe we have a project. Up until that point, you basically have a concept. So what we're able to do by having this design team under contract, we can actually prove to them that we are indeed, our city council is very serious about the possibility of building the proposed downtown community facility. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gil Susan, and he will introduce the rest of the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penny. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council, and to the public. My name is Gail Susan. I'm the Vice President of Pre-Construction for Barnhill Contracting. For this project, I'm actually the pre-construction leader for the Barnhill Holt Brothers joint venture. I'm here tonight to present an update, share the progress that we've made over the past coming into the 6 weeks now with everyone here, and also to introduce our team. We are also going to give an update on our civil and site. We're going to give a quick update on our programming for the interior design. And then we're going to give you an update on the design criteria as we're developing what the design criteria could be for the outside of this facility. Our design build team, the executives that are working on this team are myself, Terrence Holt with Holt Brothers, and David Wiest is our project executive. On our design side for the architecture, our lead architect is Oakley Collier. We've got Tim and Ann here with us tonight. We also have Sink Combs Deflis. We have Don Deflis here with us. He's our program architect. And then Victor Vines is here with us with Bob Thomas. They are our design architect. They're going to be working on primarily what the building's going to look like on the outside. And we're going to have some opportunities to see their progress as well. With the architects that we have on our team, we also have a staff of consultants that are helping us. We have Stewart Engineering, who is our structural engineer. We also have Atlantec, who is our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. We have Colgan S. Stone, who's our civil engineer, civil landscape engineer. You're going to hear Scott Hazard speak about the civil update for us. And working on his partner on his side is Stocks Engineering. We have Michael Stocks on our team as well. Just as a general update of where we are as our progress, we are, like Charles had mentioned, this is the start of our week 6 of our progress, but our major milestone right now is the completion of our guaranteed maximum price to the city of Rocky Mount by October 9th. And we are progressing very well with that, and there's a little graph that shows you our progress, and we're going to start sharing a little bit more now on our civil side. So let me turn this over to Scott, and he'll share a little bit more on our civil updates.
My name is Scott Hazard. I'm a landscape architect with Colgan S. Stone, and just wanted to sort of really set the stage for the context of the site. That's really one of the things our design team is focused on, is fitting this facility into the urban fabric of downtown Rocky Mount. The site is not a greenfield on the edge of town or whatnot, but it's really needs to be inserted very smartly into the downtown environment. There's a lot of historic elements to downtown. There's a lot of development and great other projects that have been implemented in the past few years. This project will be a great catalyst for development is what we're working for, and it will really partner with a lot of the existing projects that have been completed recently. On this side of the project, you have Thomas Street, Main Street on the west side, Gold Leaf on the north, and Albemarle Street to the east of the proposed building. Some of these projects I mentioned, the Douglas Block, as you know, was recently completed a few years ago. That's been a great success for the city of Rocky Mount. We have the downtown streetscape, which extends from Gold Leaf all the way south to the train station south of town. And of course, we have the Imperial Center, which is another great catalytic project that's really spurred some of the success we're seeing in downtown, located about a block or two to the west along Gold Leaf Street. We're really trying to, as I mentioned, marry this project with downtown and really be sensitive and pay quite a bit of attention to the surrounding environment. And also I just wanted to mention, I mentioned historic. It is part of the Central City local and national historic district, so there's a lot to consider there, a lot of requirements need to be met, as well as just paying attention to the details in terms of how this project sits on the site. One of the other key aspects that our team is looking at is vehicular and pedestrian circulation at the site. The site's really well served with the 4 streets I just mentioned a minute ago. We have vehicular access on the west side on Main Street, and also great access for bus drop-off and service and a loading dock on the east side of the site that the architects will speak more about. The other aspect really is pedestrian access. These blue arrows, the dark blue arrows, are really the primary pedestrian circulation. Right now we have the main entrance for the building located on the west side of the site on Main Street, so really need to pay attention to how we get people from proposed parking down on the east side of the project up and over to the main side, whether they're coming on Gold Leaf or through a mixed vehicular and pedestrian corridor that walks right between the Douglas Block and Booker T. Theater and the south side of the project. Parking, I mentioned a minute ago, parking, we're really looking at utilizing the block, the majority of the block east of Albemarle Street for proposed parking. And there's also quite a bit of surface parking on the streets adjacent to the project site. One of the things our team's really focused on is the streetscape. As you know, the downtown Rocky Mount streetscape going from Gold Leaf south about 4 blocks was recently completed about 3 years ago. And we're really working to continue that pattern from the Douglas Block here north along Main Street and really all around the site on all 4 sides to make sure it really, again, fits in there. So we're working to really repeat that pattern and extend it, whether it's street trees, street lights, paving patterns, et cetera. We really want to tie this into downtown, as I mentioned before. One of the other things that's part of the streetscape is really that cross-section. That cross-section, it's a bit small here, but really if you just imagine between the face of the building and the back of curb, that distance, there's really is a bit of magic to it in terms of how it works, how you experience it. So we're really working with the architects, the city, and the rest of the design team to make sure that that space, that narrow public space is really successful and really helps guide people up from the parking to the front entrance area here and really becomes a great public space to be in outside the building. And really there should be a lot of cues in order to interact with the building when you're outside there. And last but not least, we mentioned that the building really is contained with 4 sides. We're really trying to engage the street on all 4 sides. But at the entrance, we're paying a little bit more attention here, really trying to create a sense of arrival and create a great drop-off, a gathering space for the large events that will take place inside here. Now I'll hand it off to Bob, who's going to talk more about what happens inside the building.
Good evening. I'm Don Deathless with St. Combs Deathless Architects. So I wanted to talk to you today about the program elements and how we've laid it out for the building inside. So again, the idea is that the major entry to this building would be on the west side, which is Main Street, which you can see in the yellow area up top. The goal is to bring people around from lots of different parking lots in downtown to distribute the pedestrian traffic but also link very well into the east proposed parking lot. The idea is that grand entry will serve a lot of different purposes. It will get people in during tournaments, which is one of the major kind of uses of this. The idea is what you're seeing in the large white room is what we're calling the field house. The idea is that would have 8 basketball courts, which you can see on the left and the right, and then we will have 16 cross courts for volleyball. So very large area for recreational sports and tournament uses. The dotted line down the middle, going up and down the middle of that space, is a large partition similar you'd see in a hotel banquet room that can divide it into 2 pieces. So on one side you could have 4 basketball courts, on the other you could have 8 volleyball courts going simultaneously. The other blue area on the upper left is what we call the family entertainment zone. We'll show you pictures of that Steve from SFA sent us so you can see what's the type of uses that would be happening in that. The other things you're seeing is, again, the main entry relates to Main Street, but on the upper right of this diagram, we have a food court and a cafe. The cafe is really a seating area with the thought that we will have both indoor and exterior sidewalk dining for that. So this will go anywhere from moderate use to very large uses. And for the tournaments, as well as there will be an arena component that we'll show you in a second. As we kind of go around the building clockwise, the large orange area is a 9,000 square foot banquet room that can be subdivided into 6 different rooms, so we can go anywhere from small meetings up to very large banquets of 600 to 700 people. The other area is that the right-hand side of the field house can also become a banquet room and sit over 2,000 people in that area. The storage area, which is the gray area on the lower right, the idea is that's an integral component in order to serve both the sporting uses, but what we've tried to do is hide all of the loading functions because this really is a 4-sided building and we want this building, especially to the east and the lower scale of the residential, to be a much smaller scale and relate to that. The idea is, again, going back to the orange room, the banquet banquet room. You can come right indoors off the northeast corner. The goal is as people drive down Atlantic to see a glassier piece of the building that looks like an entry. And then finally on the lower left, all the kind of aqua teal colored rooms. Those are locker rooms and promoters' offices that will serve both the sports functions as well as the arena use. The one thing we did want to show is on a daily basis, you'd have a drop-off area right below the locker room, so people could, whether there's tournaments and buses are coming, or vans are coming, or people loading in different functions, that can all happen here. Or if someone is just wants to be dropped off close by, we've got drop-offs on Main, on Albemarle, as well as Goldleaf. So these are some of the photos of what could be happening in the family entertainment zone. They have a clip and climb. So this also would be a two-story type space. Unlike this, which is kind of a dark room, some of this will open to the outside. So if people walk along Main, they'll be able to see these activities inside. And then this is what they call velocity. So again, a lot of these photos, just because that was happening that day, they have kids shown, but this is for kids, younger, teens, adults, especially some corporation may just rent this space for a day during the week in order to have team building type of exercises. So these are the kind of spaces that would be happening in that family entertainment zone, which quite honestly you don't see in a lot of rec center type sporting buildings around the country, and it's something SFA has really developed, and it has really helped their pro forma, as well as really created an exciting type building. The second floor of what we're proposing on this building is along the top of the field house, which is kind of the yellow zone. We'd have an observation deck, so you can be up on the second floor looking down on all the basketball or volleyball courts. The blue area is administrative offices. The red area to the right of that is one meeting room. That could also be a hospitality room. And then finally, the larger block of the orange color is 3 meeting rooms that can be combined. So that'll be used for tournaments, it'll be used for meetings, and it'll be a very flexible space. One of the things that makes this building unique is it isn't just a recreation or sporting or tournament facility, but it has the ability to do what we would call large arena type functions as a venue to get people together. So what you're seeing here on the right side of the field house is telescopic seats which can pull back. And so those are individual seats that people can sit in on the top, the right, and the bottom, which are west, north, and east, and then a telescopic bleacher on the south. So the idea is that in a basketball configuration, you could get more than 4,200 seats here. And so you could have big tournaments, you could have big events, big high school events to bring to town. The second type event, it's a little hard to see the stage. The stage would be on the left of this one. So again, we could do stage events with U-shaped seating bowl and seats on the floor, also of about 4,200 seats. So that adds flexibility to the building, and you can bring concerts or other type comedians, other speakers to town. Again, it won't happen all the time because this is a mixed-use building, but you would have the ability to do that in this venue. The other one, in addition to having banquets on the floor of the field house, which I said could do 2,000 people on banquet tables, we also have the ability to do floor shows for exhibitions, trade shows, those kind of things, big community festivals. So usually this business, everyone sets up on a 10 by 10 booth, so we got 186 booths just on the right side. We could do exactly the same thing on the left side. So if you want to have a big festival in town, you're worried about the rain, this would be a great building to do it, to bring people to downtown Rocky Mount. And I think that is one of the things that makes this building unique, is that the flexibility to do the large variety of events. That's been one of our tasks from day one, to try to pull that all together so that it's more than just a sporting building. It really becomes a community venue for a lot of different uses.
Thank you. My name is Victor Vines. I'm with Vines Architecture. We are the associate design architect on the project. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about not so much what the building looks like currently, but some of the principles that we're going to be using to determine that. Rocky Mount, as you know, is very, very rich in its history when it comes to the downtown area. and not just the downtown area, but also some of the other adjacent developments that are off of the railroad spur and the main street. And so we'd like to zoom out and take a very macro look at sort of understanding the history and the development of the downtown when we're doing work in these areas to really begin to help inform us as we continue to develop the project what the actual look will be and some of the design cues that we want to take from. There is a main street which the building will be located on, as we had indicated. That is very key to the location of our site and understanding what happens along that edge, as both Scott and Don has mentioned. And so we really believe there is a great opportunity, given the railroad track location, what is occurring across the track from the site, and also to the north and the south with some of the other more significant venues that are around. The Douglas block on the corner is very significant in its success and development, and so we'll be looking to be very sensitive and a good neighbor to that facility as we develop the project. The downtown area street today has tremendous opportunity for vibrance, and we see this facility being able to really contribute to that as we develop it. We'll talk a lot in the future as we continue the design of the project about the notion of porch and street, and this is a principle that we'll begin looking at, sort of interpreting how we can begin to develop this idea with our new facility. It is a large facility, it's robust in size, and one of the things we're going to need to be sensitive to is the scale and the pedestrian scale of the facility as we develop it. And so we'll be looking to really break that scale down so that the feel of the pedestrian, and as you approach the building, that you won't feel intimidated by it, but it actually will be very welcoming as we continue to develop the exterior. As I mentioned, there are very significant venues that are already established around our existing site. Just to kind of get you oriented, this is the site for the new facility, Main Street, and we'll begin to look at how the building really addresses that street, and perhaps carving and pushing back, allowing for some breathing room along that edge, as Scott mentioned, when we start developing the architecture. As Don mentioned, it is a 360 building, meaning that there is no so-called back to the building. And so the design will basically be addressing and being respectful, as I mentioned, of the Douglas block, also the community to the east of the site, and also some of the developments that have tremendous opportunities, such as the development of the depot to the west. And then, of course, to the north, we have other facilities such as churches and things that we've got to be very sensitive to. So large in size, but as I said, as the exterior develops, it really will be key to break down this mass and understand what that scale, pedestrian scale, can be. This is a quick diagram, three-dimensional diagram of the area we're talking about. As I mentioned, this is the site for the facility, Main Street. So you'll see and begin to see sort of the relationships that I'm referring to that we'll be very sensitive to: the rail, the spur off of the mill to the Monk Trail, and then also other opportunities for development such as hotels and other areas that are very key to the development of the area and the site specific. This is a quick sort of venue of sort of just an experiential snapshot of sort of how we began to see some of the program components that Don talked about, and how they might actually begin to be developed in our space, particularly in some of the open public areas. There will be very open, glassy areas that are facing Main Street, so there'll be transparency that allows for the visitor and the pedestrian to see activities that are going in. There are two-story areas with communicating stairs, which allows ease up to the upper levels, and things, as Don mentioned, such as observation platforms and decks that allow you to understand both experiences in the rec area as well as the field house. The materials that we're going to be looking at, we're going to try to make sure are not simply arbitrary in nature. We tend to want to try to look at the vernacular of the local area, and so things such as metal will be used in a more contemporary, interpretive way in our new facility, and as well as wood and brick being two of the other primary materials, given the nature of some of the really nice existing facilities that you have here, very nice detailing. And so we'll be looking to interpret that and basically give you what we would consider a very modern, sort of contemporary solution as we continue to develop the exterior of the building.